Hi.
Hi.
So Whisper and I decided that it would be a really awesome idea because we're
Awesome.
and like essentially geniuses. Like we set the bar pretty high with beauty and education and awesomeness. So we thought it would be a really cool idea to start doing videos or maybe podcasts if I can figure out how that works. So you may be looking at us, so you're welcome, or listening to us.
Yeah. Which would be ideal because you could do it when you're driving.
Yeah.
So you don't text and drive.
Or watch videos of us and drive. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah,
Do
don't
not watch this while you're driving. PSA. So we're going to try to do this at least once a month, maybe more if we've got some awesome ideas or if there's a topic that people want us to discuss. By all means, let us know. We will do that for you. So we'll see how it goes. Today may be interesting, but at the end of the day, you're still watching two beautiful ladies, so you're welcome. Today we're going to talk about Whisper's passion.
I have a couple.
Well, we're going to talk about the this one. Her Belly's Inc. Sorry for the people who are listeing to us. I'm pointing to her shirt, which says Belly's Inc. Whisper, what is Belly's Inc.?
Belly's Inc. is the company that runs a lot of core confidence programming, teaches you about pelvic floor and core health. So these are the ladies that I went to train with to learn more about what's going on with your pelvic floor and core. And I went when I was pregnant because I needed to learn a lot of information in a short period of time. And these guys are awesome and spreading the word about how to address your pelvic floor and core, mostly preparing for labor and delivery,
right?
But also touching base on how it functions, how things are working, and all of that. So yeah, Belly's Inc. is those women, the people who I generally look up to helping obviously give the education to fitness providers like myself.
Cool. So when you did this course, you came out with a certification. It's a core confidence instructor.
Yes.
So what exactly does that mean? What can you do? What makes you so special?
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of courses through my fitness profession, and some of them will give you certain designations, so you're registered and more recognized, and then some of them are just courses that improve your knowledge and your education so that when somebody comes in to get personal training with you, you just have more knowledge. You're able to actually address some of those issues. So
right. Your scope gets a little bigger.
Oh, definitely. And it's really important that it does because everybody is so different. I think that's probably why I keep learning. I generally learn about things that I want to know so that I can improve stuff in my life, but also if I see the same pattern happening with multiple clients. So if I have multiple pregnancies or multiple people with pelvic issues, maybe my clients are peeing their pants when they're working out and I'm like, what's going on there, right? So I need to figure out why. I'm literally always asking why, and this is just one of the areas, and this may not be something that I ever have to talk to you about, but then somebody comes in and I'm like, well, what's going on with that person? Why is that happening? How can I help? And so then you just have to dig a little bit deeper. Yeah.
Cool. So I just want to go back when you were talking about going to the Belly's Inc. course. You said that you yourself were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that pelvic floor issues or core issues are really only an issue that women who are pregnant or have been pregnant have?
No. Everybody can have pelvic floor.
So men or women.
Men or women can have pelvic floor core issues. Some women that I've talked to seem to not have as many issues, and To be honest, I think it's more related to what we do on a daily basis, like our jobs every day. I do find that a lot has to do with the posture of the body. So that can definitely pertain to men. Definitely people who are overactive. So I see this a lot in like hypertonic people that are like type A personality, go, never stretch at the end of the workout, like never take my advice.
Yeah, don't care. They come in to get their sweat on and they're like, see y'all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have any of those people here.
Yeah.
So get my list out and cross names off here.
Like it generally is something that is super easy to fix, and I try to politely give this advice to my clients so that they start to implement. Yeah. And then if they get to a barrier where either two things occur, they hit a plateau because they have zero range of motion, or they can't improve their range of motion, so we can't improve their strength. I generally will like lay the law down, or if they injure themselves, right, because they don't implement it, because they will continue to pick up the heavier weights, they continue to go harder because they are strong. Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with it. And then what happens is one day you're just not as awake as you are normally. Maybe you didn't sleep very well the night before. Maybe you just have a little bit of brain fog, or something's happening in your life, and you're like, well, I normally squat, 100 pounds or 150, or I usually swing this or whatever, but you're in la la land that day, bam, injury. And it's because we don't have the same connection as when we're tired as when we're present, when we're awake. Why I always say, connect your mind to your body. I say it literally every class I run. Yeah. I'm sure people just hear it as words at this point. But literally every time I say it, I mean it. Every single time. Like that first round when I'm like, we are warming up our body, we are getting things moving, like you're connecting to your mind, to your body, you're moving your joints, you're generally starting to get that fluidity happening through the body. And if you're just not there that day is not the day that you pick up those weights. Also, or you killed it yesterday or the day before, and you're like, I can't even bend because I like murdered my workout. You gotta like ease into it, because that connection just isn't there. Things aren't firing the same way. So there's a disconnect to the muscle from your mind, and the same thing happens when you lose that, when you don't use your muscle, when you don't use your pelvic floor muscles, when you don't use your core. It's very common even with like upper back retraction. You just don't get that like connection. It's just not there. When I say turn it on, it just doesn't. And it takes a long time to actually get that to happen. Yeah, like do you find that even though you're saying like activate your core and you've been training with these people or coaching them during the classes, that there's still people that don't actually know how or if their core is properly turned on? Absolutely. I think it comes with time, but I think it also comes from previous like habits, maybe where they were taught initially how to engage their core. Like suck your belly button back to your spine. Yeah, so there's not synergy between those really important core muscles that are going on. It's not just your abs that is your core. So and I think that is sometimes the issue too, is that when you say core, a lot of people are just assuming, oh, she means my abs, but that's not it at all. Because what is your core? So when we train core contraction, which, when we're engaging our entire body and we're getting our core to turn on, I would say more muscles are involved, but mainly you're working with your pelvic floor. You're working with your diaphragm. You're working with your transverse abdominals, and you're working with your multifidus, which runs up your back. So you have that whole torso engaged. And the diaphragm part is the most important part that we generally don't have any connection to, because we don't realize that breathing is a muscular action. So expanding the lungs expands the diaphragm, and as you inhale, the diaphragm lowers and your pelvic floor will relax. It lowers. They work in synergy together. Right. So that is absolutely the key component of it all, is the breath, and why I say connect your breath to the movement. When you exhale on exertion, you're getting all the air back out. The pelvic floor lifts back up. It's strong now because it's up. You can activate it, and you can activate it better because you're letting the air out, and then your diaphragm lifts, and then your transverse will automatically start to turn on. You start to feel it. And then if you have a diastasis, which is a separation of your abdominal wall, you should be able to utilize and almost take advantage of that breath to start to close that in. So the stretching of the connective tissue down your abdominal wall generally happens when there's a lot of internal pressure out. So that's what happens during pregnancy, and mostly pregnancy with poor posture.
Right.
And or like multiple babies, or just a giant baby, I don't know. Like,
but you see that happen a lot with athletes or people who are really gung-ho at the gym, and you see them on Instagram, they're doing their fancy core work, and you can actually create a diastasis that way too. You see it a lot in male models too.
Yeah,
right?
you can actually see it because you can see their abs, and you can see the gap right down the middle, and that's that separation. Now they may have good core contraction, but they have put stress on that linea alba, that connective tissue down that center, because of so much pressure out on the abdominal wall. So they're mostly just stretching that connective tissue. So there can be issues in those people, and not only internal pressure out on your abdominal wall is an issue, but if you have pelvic floor issues going on, that's pressure down also. So if you're a new mom, or if you have constipation and you're prolapsing, because of that reason, and you're going to the gym to feel good and you're doing a million crunches, then you're probably making those weak muscles weaker. You're not really doing a ton. And to be completely honest, early on in my fitness years, I did core with my clients almost every time I seen them. They want it. Everybody wants abs. I
find that when I'm talking to my clients, it's like, okay, like, what would you like if you're doing your next program? What do you want? Like, oh, more core. Like, we're doing core.
And I think that's where that really dialing it back, so that you're teaching, you're really teaching those primal movements first. It's challenging because when you do get a new client, and I would say this is pretty normal, is that we're the most motivated when we first sign up.
Totally.
But our sessions are the slowest at the beginning than that they'll ever be.
Yeah. So you're teaching and you're learning everything, and sometimes you're learning everything all over again, which is almost more challenging than learning.
Especially if you thought that you were doing it right, it can be discouraging. And it's not that you weren't doing it right, it just that it's really important to reduce injury. It's super important that if I have a client that I can train them for years, or they can train for years. I can teach them those foundational movements, like key activation, the muscle turn on, when to relax something, when it needs to be stretched or mobilized or whatever, because if they can maintain that balance within their body, they are never going to injure. They will always know when to rest, so inflammation will be lower, which means cortisol in your body will be lower, which means more weight loss with just knowing your body, with just being in tune with it. There's a lot of really sneaky ways to get what you want in the gym without actually working so hard.
Totally.
Like I prefer that. I don't know. I just like.
What's that saying? Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
It applies to your core as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember when after I had Max and I was training with you, this was before you went for the Bellies Inc. certification.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of our sessions, what would we do?
Core.
Every
time I know.
Russian twist. It was
I think I went back to
drops.
all of my clients and I apologized.
Yeah.
If you were ever pregnant, maybe not you. But
No. Did not get an apology.
Yeah, I know I did apologize to most people.
But the interesting thing is that you completed that course before my training was over. So I got before and after's Belly Inc. We should name that something, but whatever. So after you went, we stopped doing that core stuff.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't. I literally I couldn't come back knowing what I learned and keep doing it. I just couldn't. Like I was like, how can we all as fitness instructors be doing this to people? Who's the number one person that works out? Like new moms. They're the most gung-ho to get back to feeling the way that they felt before. Rightfully so. It sucks. Like, I hated it. I did not feel fit. I did not feel strong. I lost everything that I'd worked for however long I was working for. And I felt like I then lost a part of who I was.
Totally.
Because I couldn't do
the things that you love anymore.
And it's like I could go and deadlift, but if I wanted to prolapse my uterus
or pee your pants in front of everybody,
I didn't want to do that. And side note right there, I had a C-section and I still went into labor. I still pushed. I still strained those muscles. And even if that's not the case and you have a scheduled C-section, you still carry a baby on your pelvic floor for 9 months. Yeah. So it's never had that much weight on your pelvic floor before. No. So it's really important that you give it some recovery time, that you rest, that you re-engage. Yeah. And never in my life did I have that massive amount of weight in front of me. I thought I would pop this baby out and I would just
carry on.
It would be gone. Which wasn't the case.
I'm just gonna wake up the next day and I'm gonna go put on my super skinny jeans and everything will be okay.
Well, and then I looked in the mirror and it wasn't even necessarily just that my stomach didn't go back the way that it was. It was a lot of it was my butt. I just didn't even have one. It was just where, and I was like, where did it go? And it wasn't that I didn't have a butt.
Anatomy wise, it was still
still there, but it was under my body somewhere.
You had the underbutt.
Because that part of your body is essentially what's holding your baby up for those last couple months of pregnancy, because we all do it. We all lean back to counter that weight. So if I had known this before, if I can teach people before they have babies, this is ideal, because then we know that we need to counter that and we need to stand straight and we need to hold our baby stacked within our posture instead, right? So had I known those things, and I still wanted to be fit through my pregnancy, so I wanted to be that person. But I think in retrospect, I probably would have done more mobility work. I would have stretched more. I'm happy to be able to stretch my pregnant clients now because it's so useful.
Yeah. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Had you had that education before you got pregnant, your pregnancy would be completely different. What I was saying before about how you were training me versus after how you started training me after you went to Bellies Inc., because I don't know if you remember this, but I'm sure you remember I had 2 C-sections. But they basically go right through your muscles. And when you were doing the core work with me, I couldn't feel my lower muscles. I could not feel them. She's like, do you feel that? I'm like, I don't feel a friggin' thing. Sometimes I would just be like, oh yeah, sure, because I wanted her to stop. It wasn't until after you started training me with your bellies
They got the feeling back.
I got the feeling back. And it was the most incredible feeling to think I had been working all this time, doing all these Russian twists and leg drops, and nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden, you're showing me or teaching me how to engage my pelvic floor, how to engage my core properly, and boom, it's like, oh, that I feel that. It works.
I think there's the nervous system connection there, like that engagement, but also that you are engaging that, you're turning them on. So you're starting to do that, but by moving it, I think there's a little bit of that massage action, and you're releasing some of that scar tissue because of movement alone. Mm-hmm. So you're starting to move that fascia, and you're starting to get more blood flow in that area from that engagement. Yeah. If you were just doing sit-ups, it's just this, right?
Or nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. They're just pressure. It's not actually moving those muscles. No. It's just pressure. So that's the difference there. Mm-hmm. And I think you really start to heal and mend and increase like that mind-body connection to those muscles to engage it. That's when you get that feeling back. I don't have any issue. I feel like I have all my feeling there. Yeah. I started my core breathing the day after I had Fern because I wanted to have that engagement back. And I continued doing it, and I took every single step I could, and it may have felt slow at the time, but I'm incredibly grateful that I reminded myself through that process that I needed to do this. Mm-hmm. That it wasn't worth it if I was going to pee my pants for the rest of my life, or if I felt like I couldn't ever jump again, or if I had pain, like I'd do a side lunge and I'd get like pubic symphysis pain. And all of that was really annoying. And like people are living with this, and they have to wear a pad to it.
And we're not talking about it. Because
we're not talking
about it because it's like, oh, here's your 6-week postpartum checkup, and oh, you're good to go, do whatever you want. And society is telling us over time that you had a baby, guess what, you're just gonna pee your pants.
And it's become a norm, right? Yeah. It's definitely become a norm, and there's no way that I'm in control of anybody else. This is more just on a personal experience. Like, to each their own. If you wanna go right back to the gym, and you wanna lift your heavy weights, or you wanna run a marathon, and that's empowering for you, and peeing your pants is less important than doing those things. It's your life. I just don't feel that way.
No. You mentioned something earlier about how, if we have an injury or we have major surgery on another part of our body, I think you referenced the shoulder, that we're given all these rehab exercises to do and all this time off and rest and blah, 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 blah.
If you tear a rotator cuff, you don't go play baseball the next day, and it's completely recognized. But here's the thing: some people break. Some people take a break and rehab it, and then they go back and play baseball. And then there's some people that don't. So like it's the same scenario.
Yeah.
All I'm here to do is to help the people that actually
want the help.
Yeah, and don't want that feeling, because I do think because it's not talked about enough, that you feel like you're the only person that has that. And so not only are you going through something that is hard to go through and you're struggling with it, but it's to a lot of people it's embarrassing. To a lot of people it's even hard to talk to their significant others about if there's any issues with the pelvic floor. And I really think that you're suffering by yourself. It's an emotional time anyways. Generally we're sleep deprived after having a baby, regardless. So everything is like tenfold. But I think that also is why your body needs time to heal. I truly feel like if you are postpartum and you are, especially if you're breastfeeding, you're really not gonna get like that full body balance back until that's done. Your body's hormones play such a huge factor in communication, in repair, in energy expenditure. So your relaxin levels can be high up to a year postpartum. So if you're going out and you're running around, then you're just gonna have a lot of still loose joints and loose muscles and loose things that are happening that just need a little extra love. It doesn't mean that you can't do exercise. I mean,
No.
but like I didn't fully plank. I think for like, I would say like I felt good and confident to plank on my toes about 8 months.
Yeah.
After 8 months, that was like full engagement, like
Doing it properly.
yeah.
I'm going to take it way, way back because I feel like we may have missed actually talking about what the pelvic floor is, because I think there's some people out there that just don't know. You hear pelvic floor and I think we can kind of maybe get an idea of what you're talking about, but what actually is the pelvic floor? And on top of that, if you have pelvic floor dysfunction, how might one know that they have that? What are some symptoms?
So the pelvic floor muscles are pretty intricate. There's a lot of them, but pretty much it's the base of muscles that lie within your pelvis. So they sit this way and they kind of, you know, they go this way and this way, and they're all intertwined to help support your internal organs. So when you engage it, you should feel a lift in your pelvic floor muscles. So like you're holding in a pee or a poop, like, and ideally both.
Yeah.
Up. So we kind of want the front side of the pelvic floor and the back side of the pelvic floor to work in synergy, and that's what happens if our pelvis is tilted under. Then
So this would be your bum.
this would be your bum, yeah. So then it's tucked under, and what you can see is these muscles, or chances are, not going to actually activate, and these back ones are going to be doing all of the work. This is where a lot of back pain comes in. So this is where pelvic floor and core issues don't pertain to just women. This is definitely a man thing. I'm not sure if I even know a man that doesn't have that. I'm like, do all their pants fall down? Like, so yeah.
That's why the belt industry is so big.
So men's pelvises are much smaller as well. They don't have as much movement. That's just a natural thing for them. They don't expand. They're just not built that way.
Well, because they don't have to shoot, you know,
Babies.
10-pound watermelons
Yeah.
out of them.
And the tailbone doesn't move the same way. I don't know. Sorry. The tailbone doesn't.
You're not supposed to do that.
Same way. So anyway, but that's where a lot of issues come in, especially for people who are active. And when we have like a dominant side or not. So when we're working with the shoulders, they're two separate things.
Right.
So you have one shoulder issue. Eventually it'll probably make the other one compensate and give you issues, but your pelvis is one unit. So if you have issues on one side, you're going to feel something different on the other side almost right away.
Cool.
So it like can shift on one side, it can shift on like up or whatever, like it, you know, like one side could be higher or tilted or opposite, and that's where you get that pulling maybe in the front of your pubic symphysis. That's maybe where you're getting some piriformis issues and you know, real pain in that glute area, or why you feel in your lower back, maybe there's some pulling going on. And this is where it extends further than just the pelvic floor and core, because you know, your hip flexor crosses through your pelvis. So if your hip flexor is really short, because it's attached to the spine, it can also be a huge issue. So if you're having back pain, and in order to get your pelvis to sit in the right spot, we need to take some of those considerations in when releasing the muscles, so that it can actually move, yeah, like hinge. So we're hinging at the hip, and or we can tilt it back and forth and move it side to side. And you know, we don't want to go from a seated position to standing and then get back pain. Right. Generally, that's a huge hip flexor indication, because as soon as you go, so your hip flexor is like really short when you're sitting, and then you go to stand and it wants to lengthen, and it doesn't have that because it's super tight, then it's gonna trigger into that back. So I like to teach just simple releases for those things, you know, so that you can get that mobility back. It's way easier when my clients or you or whoever is wanting to improve their range of motion, decrease pain in that area, more engagement, more tone. If they do it themselves. And I've always said this. I've said this before I even knew about core and pelvic floor stuff. If you go get a massage and your massage therapist is releasing your neck or your shoulders or your lower back or whatever, your glutes, that always feels nice. So whatever it is that you go to your massage therapist for that you always have issues with, if you could find a release or a stretch mobility technique that's going to work that area to keep it rested, generally you're going there over and over again because you're having the same issue over and over again, which means it is likely something you're doing over and over again within your daily life, that's making that muscle fire up and be overactive. So if you go for a massage, which is amazing, or a fascial stretch, or chiro, or osteo, any sort of therapy out there, they're all awesome. They all work different ways. But if you go to any of them and then you have tools to keep maintenance in between, which I know we give to our fascial stretch clients or our PT or whatever, if they maintain it, if they actually do their homework, it's insane.
Yeah.
I'm never working on the same thing again because they're actually doing it. Or if I am working on the same thing to help them increase the range of motion, they've already improved their range of motion on their own, and then I can work it a little bit more, and then we're taking shoulders that, aren't able to do this, able to actually touch the ground, or like range of motion for your arms all the way over, because I've given them the homework to actually, and they're doing it. It's insane.
So do your homework.
And I have clients that, like my fascial stretch clients, I would say do their homework the most because generally when I'm stretching somebody, they're in pain, so they don't want to be in pain anymore. It's a huge motivator. If you are in pain,
we can tell when you've done your homework.
Totally.
We can tell when you have been too. You know who I'm talking to. You're probably watching this. So do your homework.
And honestly, I think that is a huge component of that team aspect, that work that has to be done. If my clients do their homework and they do these releases, if they ever see, I'm going to throw more awesome exercises at you. I'm going to trust that you have that connection to your body, so I'm going to challenge you more. If you don't do it, then I can't. I really can't, because even if you want it and you want to work hard and you want me to push you, I just can't break you. I can't strain your tendons and ligaments, and I can't do, there's that sort of barrier there for sure.
Totally.
So
so many people that come to the gym for personal training, and they're literally like, I want you to break me. They want to leave.
They do.
Crying for their mama on their hands and knees. But like you said,
but that, there's such
we want to do that. Yeah. We want to do that, but if you're not doing your homework and your body isn't able to handle that, we literally cannot actually break you in that sense if you're not prepared to do it.
Yeah, because chances are then if you do get injured, then you're off for you're off for a couple weeks or whatever,
and miss you.
Yeah, and we do, and it sucks because then it
when you get back, you're starting from scratch again because you've been off for so long. So now we have
and it's a mental game too.
Yeah.
When you're off from the gym, the gym is a place for you to empower yourself. And so it really is less about what it is you're actually doing here, but whatever you're doing here, you're feeling like you're pushing yourself a little bit, and when you leave, you feel like, holy shit, I just did that, I feel so good, you just get this, woo!
I just rode 200 meters in under 40 seconds.
Yeah, that feeling, right? Yeah. And you know it when you do it, and it doesn't really matter what it actually is. I mean, we post our clients' PRs all the time, and things that we do that make us feel good. It doesn't really matter what it is. It just makes you feel good. It's just the feeling. It really truly is, because whatever was in my head before is not in my head anymore, and I feel great. And now if I don't have that, and this is where that piece where postpartum was challenging, was I didn't get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't get a lot of like, right?
Yeah.
So this...
But do you not believe that because you took the time to
I can do it now with
that
confidence.
you can do it, right? Like,
Yes.
if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be able to maybe lift as strong because you're going to be having those pelvic floor issues, or you're not going to be able to engage your core and pelvic floor the way you should. Or you could do it, but then guess what? You just threw your back out because you didn't have your core properly engaged.
And that's what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And mind you, there was a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I did something and I wasn't completely engaged, or I was more tired and maybe pushing. And these are all learning lessons, and actually fully injure myself. But I think because I know, my boundaries, that it was good. But that's why I said, like, I had to keep reminding myself that it was just a temporary period of time. But for people who don't know they can restore their body, they don't know it's a temporary period of time. Right? Or people that are living with back pain, or living with, prolapse, or living, like, some of these things are injuries, that you're always going to be managing pain. So there is that boundary or that difference where you may not be able to fully, mend, but I've seen a lot of people that, think like they have to live with that, and it's like literally gone. Like some breathing techniques and some mobility releases, and bam. Like it's not hard, but you have to be okay. You have to be okay with the regression. Yeah. So you're dialing it back a notch to know that your future self is going to be your strongest self, and that is who I am now. Yeah. And I had to believe that I would get here. I didn't know if I would, but now I've done it. And I'm proud that I didn't injure myself. I don't pee my pants. I've worked my scar tissue. I have feeling in my abdominal wall. I still do have a diastasis, or I have that separation in my abdominal wall, but I've closed it, or started to close it, and when I'm working out, I know how to engage it, and it's a functional diastasis. I can close it when I need to find the support around my pelvis, so that when I'm squatting a heavy weight or I'm swinging, that I have that engagement. And that's where it goes wrong, really, is that if you don't have that, and this is why this information pertains to anybody who is exercising, regardless of if you have any dysfunction. If you have zero dysfunction, this information is huge, because if you have zero dysfunction and you can start to implement this information, then you are going to be the strongest friggin' person ever. Yeah. Like, ever. There's just something about it that is so simple, and it just connects you, that when you're coming up from that squat, that you just go lift pelvic floor core, bam. And it's like, it makes your weights feel lighter. Right.
Yeah, like, for sure. Like, if you have that proper engagement, like, it's crazy how much stronger you feel and how much more capable you are at doing things.
Yeah.
It's even like things that are like squat, like overhead, like shoulder press, medicine ball slams, just having that core engaged as you come up, you go from slamming a 12-pound ball to like a 20 or 30-pound ball, because you just have that engagement. You feel strong because you are strong.
Totally. Everything is fired up and powerful. If you take this is a perfect example. If you take a breath inhale, and try to engage your core.
Not so much.
No, you can't. No. You just can't. So that's where that synergy comes in. Yeah. And that is a huge, huge key piece to working smarter, not harder.
Boom. Okay. So I think we're running a little long, but what we will do is whisper for anybody who is concerned that they have a diastasis or are having pelvic floor dysfunction, just not sure if they're connecting their core properly. What are some things that they can do?
So one is to just recognize if you have that dysfunction, I think is really important. So like, do a Kegel. Can you lift your pelvic floor? Can you engage your core? Can you feel those things happening, and if you can we try to synergize them with the breath? So inhale to expand, exhale to engage, and get those things to work together versus just isolating just the Kegel or just the core contraction, trying to get that movement all together. I teach multiple workshops. I teach them based on different demographics. So like if you're prenatal or ideally not even pregnant yet, I will teach a workshop for those people who are expecting. Yeah. So generally, I would say this is
prenatal.
Prenatal. So I would say this is generally mostly one-on-one clients, because I don't think anybody is going to sign up for a prenatal course if they're not prenatal, because then everyone's going to think they're pregnant. So I think that. But if you know, then I would still come to that workshop.
But they do have the option of booking in a one-on-one core session
absolutely.
with you.
And I do that with all of my clients anyways, prenatal or postnatal, but that's why, like, I think even if you're not, like, the people that come to the classes and follow the breathing techniques and the engagement of the core are taking a couple minutes to have that conversation with me, or I run people through like the core package where I can teach you how to engage prior to, and then I train people all through their pregnancy so that we can maintain balance in the body, we can maintain exercise, mobility, stretches, all of that sort of stuff, and give you those releases you need. So that sort of workshop, I've done restore your core. So like, if this is an issue now, I'm really sorry that you haven't got the information before now, but here are some things that can help you mend. There are some grades of prolapsing that unfortunately aren't repairable without surgery, but in order to keep that surgery,
keep it from happening again, make it a successful surgery.
And engaging those muscles and having that strength there. And you can even make like a grade 3 prolapse, a grade 2 prolapse with some of this breathing. So I think doing that workshop and that sort of education first is good. And then I'm running a workshop coming up that is very general, mostly because it's really important for everyday exercisers. So anybody,
male or female,
that works out, that wants to reduce injury, pain, dysfunction, that sort of stuff, that wants to know exercises to avoid, exercises to do, things that are wasting your time that aren't worth it, that you can be getting more time out of your workouts by doing different exercises, that sort of stuff. That's cool. And also because most people who exercise on a regular basis do have a little bit of imbalance from one side to the other. It should help with that sort of stuff. I find a lot of people get really congested hips, so how to decongest those hips so that you don't have pain going down the legs, transferring into the knees or the ankles and that sort of stuff. So that one's coming up. A bunch of different opportunities to learn this information if you need it.
I will put the link at the bottom of the video. It's going to scroll by probably like right now if I time it properly, where you can sign up in the day for that. Look, you can see it go, like right here. That's where I'm going to add it, right here. Right there.
That's how good you are.
That's how good I am. I grew up in the day and age without internet, and I'm like pretty awesome.
You're pretty good at it, considering.
Considering how old I am.
Yeah, ancient.
I'm like 97. I've done my core work and my homework. That's why I'm look as good as I do right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so last thing. What is the most important, the number one thing, if you had one thing to say to somebody about pelvic floor and core? Look at her face right now. She's like, I didn't know she was going to ask me this. What would it be?
One thing.
The most important thing. The most important thing that you would want to say to somebody
who is having core and pelvic floor issues, is that you need to slow down and make sure that what you are doing is not putting more pressure or more strain on those issues that you're having. I would say that's the most common thing out there because of the lack of information, is that we just think we need to be like superheroes and do our regular day stuff. If you can't bend over to pick up your laundry, get somebody else to do it. If you have pain doing something and you can't move a certain way, all you have to do is ask somebody to help you. Say, I will do, whatever, like maybe I'll fold the laundry, but if you could just load it for me, then that would be great, because I'm having some issues, I'm having some pain. So it's really important to ask for help, and it's really important to feel like you can take a break and take that time for you. It's so important to breathe, and it's so important to realize that you don't have to do everything.
So once again, ask for help, which many of us are not so great at. Breathe, rest, take it easy.
And then start by implementing some of those key quality things. You have to, if you are injured in any way, or if you don't have that activation, you start from scratch. And that's okay, because if you have a starting point, the starting point is today. A year goes by incredibly fast. We always say that. Oh my gosh, it's Christmas again.
Except for January, that always goes by super slow.
Right? Like, it's just one of those things where the time goes by fast.
It's gonna pass whether you do it or not, so just do it, right?
Oh yeah, like that's
it's like
just
saying a year from now you'll thank yourself. It's true. A year from now you'll thank yourself if you start implementing these things now.
And maybe be open to changing your exercise regime. The tools that you use. Like, I thought I had to go back and do the exact same thing that I was doing prior to, because that's what made me feel good then.
Doesn't mean it's going to make you feel good now, right?
It didn't. I was getting frustrated. I was hitting a wall. I couldn't do them. I was comparing myself to who I was before, and I had to find something different. And the steel mace was that.
That's why she's swinging steel mace around the gym all the time now. It's
because you can make a lightweight feel heavy, so I can get a workout that decreases that doesn't increase inflammation as much in my body, but also allows me to engage my core tremendously without putting a lot of pressure and internal pressure on my core. So I was able to excel my fitness level just by being consistent, by showing up. Like, I remember the first couple of times I was like, I'm just going to do a couple of things here. And then I was like dripping sweat, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I just kept doing that. And that tool really helped me bridge that gap for sure. So I'm happy to teach that too.
You have a steel mace workshop coming up.
I do have a steel mace.
She's a busy lady. The link is probably going to come right up across here for the steel mace.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
very much,
guys.
everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the core confidence specialist. Any personal trainer at Alternate Roots can help you with that. We always defer to Whisper if something is a little out of our scope.
Yes, but you guys have that knowledge too, so that's good. I tend to make sure, and I stand by my word, that we all follow those things. It's one of the only things that I actually am pretty...
very adamant about. And having been a personal training client of yours, and I've been through it and see... just the benefits of activating your core and pelvic floor the way that you teach. I will gladly and always will also instruct my clients to do the same, because it's crazy.
So important.
All right. So thank you again for joining us with our first video. If you have any other subjects that you would like us to cover, please feel free. Stay away from pop culture, because Whisper doesn't own a TV.
No.
Or a radio. Or anything.
I only know about fitness and your digestive system.
Dinner parties are super fun with Whisper. Alrighty. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Toodles.
See ya.